body invite the president of the Institute of Sri Lanka, and today presented. Especially 6 engineers institution by having this kind of liberal lectures. And there's another specialty. This is the first presentation, physical presentation after the COVID pandemic situation. So now I invite to keep the tradition, respectfully invite the following interest to light the oil lamp, symbolize the unseen slice of wisdom. For that, I would invite the President, President of the Institute in Sri Lanka, and Engineer Pereira, President-elect. Was past President, I would invite the past President Engineer Pencil and the Newton Technical Historian. Representative of family members of the Vidyajali Engineer Pereira. And engineer AG representative from the faculty of engineering. Engineer President Nisana Chairman, Secretary Section, Engineer Basic CEO, Executive Secretary, and Rajkumar, President of I invite all of you to thank you very much. It's another important time that we invite the President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, Professor Abhay, to file a photograph of the Now it's time to welcome all of you officially to us. May I invite the President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, Professor Abhay, for the official welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Daily News newspaper carried an article in May 1987. I quote, "When someone in Sri Lanka wishes to express admiration of another, he will describe him as a thorough gentleman or as a gentleman to the fingertips. Experience tells me that such praise is rarely deserved. One of the very few persons who, I am certain, would be universally acknowledged to fit in the description is Professor Pereira. Combining in himself the personal qualities of fair-mindedness, high principle and courtesy, cultured and soft-spoken EOE, as he was popularly known, was an outstanding scholar during his career at the Royal College, Colombo, and at Universities of Ceylon and Cambridge." Unquote. Past presidents of Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. Today we have an unprecedented number of past presidents for this lecture. Distinguished invitees, including Mr. Atula Samarasekara, representing Professor Pereira's family, members of the council, fellows and members of the Institution of Engineers, ladies and gentlemen. We are gathered here today to honor this great son of Sri Lanka, who is undoubtedly the father of modern engineering education in the country, and an eminent engineer, well-respected academic, and an outstanding administrator. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka to this very important annual event. Born on 13th September 1907, that is 1 year after the birth of Engineering Association of Ceylon, the predecessor to IESL, Professor Pereira would have been 113 years old by day after tomorrow. As a student of Royal College, young Pereira won many prizes in the science stream: the De Soisa Science Prize, the Muhammad Ali Arithmetic Prize, and the Evans Prize for Mathematics. He entered University of Ceylon in 1928 and graduated with first-class honors within the engineering scholarship. That enabled him to enter Downing College of Cambridge University, where he excelled in his higher studies. Professor Pereira was the founder dean of the first faculty of engineering in Sri Lanka at Pereira. And he was also the 5th vice chancellor of University of Pereira from 1969 to 1971. Some of the best qualities of Professor Pereira that stand out are his exceptional value system, remarkable work ethics, and his outstanding administrative skills. As stated by Professor S. Mahalingam in his book, A History of the Faculty of Engineering, 1950 to 1971, Professor Pereira drew up the plans for the faculty in September 1949 for a possible annual intake of 125 students, although the intake planned at that time was a mere 25. the expected cost of rupees 14 million for the infrastructure was very much higher than the cabinet approved rupees 3 million at that time. Vice Chancellor of University of Pereira, Professor Nicholas Artigala, refused to accept Professor Pereira's plans and proposals, and the dispute was prolonged for 8 long years, ending with the resignation of Professor E.O. Pereira in November 1957 from his position as Dean of the Faculty. The University Council appointed a subcommittee comprising the Vice Chancellor, Mr. Dudley Senanayaka, and Dr. N.M. Pereira, to discuss the resignation of Professor Pereira and to find out the grievances of Professor Pereira. Upon discussing their report that contained, among other conclusions, the requirements detailed by Professor Pereira are not in any way excessive. The council accepted the proposals of Professor Pereira, and he was convinced to take up the position of Dean once again. This highlights Professor Pereira's strong personality and his visionary leadership. The faculty, with increases up to 450 something students, now still runs with little addition to those infrastructure because of his visionary leadership. At Pereira, many are the stories and anecdotes revealed by students and peers alike of his human side in his day-to-day dealings with them. One time, a blind lady student, devastated due to a personal and cultural crisis and ridiculed by warden and peers, was visited by Professor and Mrs. Pereira at her hall of residence. They took her to the lodge, the official residence of the Vice Chancellor, and comforted her. She had lost her parents by then, and Professor and Mrs. Pereira kept her at the lodge, invited her brother to visit her there, and sorted out the issue as true parents would, converting a social disgrace and possible suicide into a happy life for the student. Professor Pereira achieved greatness in a sense other than monetary or political, which is very important in today's context. Throughout his professional and university career, he lived in a rented house, number 33 Arithusa Lane, Vellavat, with his beloved wife, Mavis, and his 3 sons, Lawrence, Brian, and Alan. As a tenant there, he was the president of Tenants Association of the area for a very long time. It is not difficult to imagine the hardships he faced in initiating and developing an engineering education in this country, especially as he had to work away from home almost uninterrupted. Ladies and gentlemen, going back to my initial quote, Professor E.O. Pereira was a gentleman to his fingertips. And it is difficult to find such people today. That is what makes continuation of this memorial lecture by IESL is important, and it is becoming more important day by day. I'm happy that the lecture today is delivered by one of the most eminent engineers produced by this country, Dr. S.B. Vijayakon, a distinguished past president of Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, and also my batchmate at University of Pereira. At a time when the country is developing plans to revamp the economy after COVID pandemic, the topic of today's lecture is both informative and timely. I thank the IESL for organizing this event in an exemplary manner, and also the Colombo branch of Pereira Engineering Faculty Alumni Association for their sustained assistance at this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the President of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, Prof. Abhekun, for the welcome address and the informative speech covering about Professor E.O. Pereira. And we have come to another very special moment that the Civil Engineering Sectional Committee has prepared a digital souvenir with the collaboration of the FIFA Colombo chapter. And To hand it over to the president, now I cordially invite the chairman of the Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, Professor Ranjit Disanayake, and Engineer Raj Kumar from Colombo FIFA chapter, FIFA Colombo chapter, and to hand over to the president of the Institution of Business Sri Lanka. You can have a look on the content of the digital studio. Ladies and gentlemen, today the 33rd lecture of the engineer Professor Pereira. Today, to introduce the speaker today, now I cordially invite the chairman, Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, Engineer Professor Ranjit Disanayake. What is it?
Thank you, Manjula. Good evening, everybody. President ISL, Professor Sarat Adekong, our guest speaker, Engineer Dr. SP Vijay Kong, and all the past president and distinguished guests. Let me briefly introduce Engineer Dr. SP Vijay Kong. He is currently serving as the Senior Lecturer of the Faculty of Engineering, University of Pereira, as well as he is a member of many major disciplinary projects and boards. And he obtained his bachelor degree in specialization in civil engineering from the University of Pereira. After, as a fresh graduate, he started his career in 1979 as a site engineer at the State Engineering Corporation. And later he, in 1998, joined at the Road Construction and Development Company as a civil engineer. And later he became the Deputy General Manager at the same place. Later Dr. SP Vijay Kong obtained his Master in Construction Management from the University of Maratua. While obtained the second is Master as well as in Business Administration, Technology Management from the Deakin University, Australia. He also obtained his PhD in Construction Management with the Deakin University, Australia. He returned to Sri Lanka from Australia and joined to the Faculty of Engineering as a senior lecturer. And at the beginning, he was in charge of the Industrial Training Unit, University of Pereira. Later, he acted as a head of Department of Engineering Management, University of Pereira. Dr. Vijay Kong is specialized in construction. He has a many construction project in Sri Lanka, and he has become a team lead of especially ADB funded road project in Sri Lanka. Being expert in bridge construction and construction management, administration and the project management, he has published many publications to his credit. He is a board member of the management of Institute of Management of University of Sri Javardhan. He has been in the ISL from the beginning. He has been in the council as a many post, representing the fellow and vice president. Finally, he became the president ISL for the 2014 and 2015. And he has made the big contribution to the ISL, been several questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him the big round of applause to welcome Engineer Dr. S.P. Vijayakan, our guest speaker, for the E.O. Pereira Memorial Lecture. Thank you.
Good evening to all of you. President IESL and Chairman Civil Engineering Sectional Committee. Dean Faculty of Engineering today is represented by Dr. Jayalat Idrisingam. Past presidents, council members, members of the Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, relatives and friends of late Professor E.O. Pereira, heads of the institutions, and I can see some my batchmates, academic staff members of the Faculty of Engineering, Peradeniya, fellow members, members of the Alumni Peradeniya Engineering Faculty Alumni Association, staff members of the IESL, ladies and gentlemen. First, I should thank the President IESL, Professor Sarath Abekon, and Chairman Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, Professor Ranjit Disanayake, for nominating me to deliver this prestigious Professor E.O. Pereira Memorial Lecture this year. Thank you, sir, for that. And this is the 113th birth anniversary and falling on 13th September. And it is my duty to tell about Professor E.O. Pereira, and I think it might take maybe 5 to 10 minutes for that. Professor Pereira was born on September 13th, 1907 to George Austus Pereira, the station master of the Ceylon Government Railway. Professor Pereira received his education at the Royal College, Colombo, where he excelled in both academic and sports. He won the DeSoisa Science Prize, the Muhammad Ali Prize, UAM's Prize for Mathematics shared with someone else, and he won House Colors for cricket. And late J.R. Javardhana, the former president of Sri Lanka, and Ceylon cricketer N.S. Joseph were his classmates at Royal College. In 1928, he entered the University College Colombo and graduated with the first class honors degree from the University of London, gaining first place in the Faculty of Science and winning the engineering scholarship. The scholarship enabled him to enter Downing College, Cambridge, where he gained the distinction of being the only graduate to finish the 3-year degree in 2 years. His contemporaries at Cambridge included the late Dudley Senanayake, former Prime Minister of Ceylon. From the University of Cambridge, he graduated with first class honors in mechanical sciences, tripos in 1931. Professor Pereira served in the Department of Public Works for 15 years before joining the teaching staff of University of Ceylon in 1946. He was its first professor of civil engineering and the founding dean of engineering faculty, University of Ceylon, at its inception in 1950. In 1969, he was appointed as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ceylon in Peradeniya. He was Chairman of the National Science Council and member of several other government boards and commissions, including Official Language Commission and the Loan Commission. The E.O. Pereira Theatre of the Faculty of Engineering, University of Peradeniya, previously Sukhavati, was named to honor him, and several awards are made each year in his name. The annual E.O. Pereira Memorial Prize is awarded for the best paper by the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka. the annual E.O. Pereira Memorial Lecture, which is conducting today, and the E.O. Pereira Gold Medal at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Peradeniya for the University of Peradeniya. Professor Pereira was married to Mavis in 1939 and had 3 children, Lawrence, Brian, and Alan. His grandfather, Edwin C. Pereira, was a member of the first class of students to graduate from the Ceylon Medical College in 1872. The great son of the soil, Professor E.O. Pereira is considered as the father of modern engineering education in the country for his unwavering resolve in putting in place the foundations on which higher education and engineering in Sri Lanka is built up on today. Called upon to provide leadership when the country decided to educate its engineers in its own soil, he had to literally start from scratch in establishing the first faculty of engineering in the country. At first in temporary setting, started at Ceylon Technical College at Maradana, and then in a shed at Thurston Road premises of the now Universities Colombo, before it found permanent accommodation at Peradeniya at now Faculty of Engineering premises of the University of Peradeniya. The fact the University of London decided to withdraw its external BSc engineering degrees being conducted up to that time at Ceylon Technical College made the task entrusted to him all the more daunting. Not only did he have to hurriedly scramble the necessary academic staff, but also attend to the acquiring of the most appropriate equipment for the laboratory that was being built at the new faculty, while also overcoming the administrative hurdles thrown across his path. That he achieved his goal successfully, and as the Dean of the Engineering Faculty for 2 decades, before he was given the Vice Chancellorship of that university as a crowning glory speaks volume of his greatness. The title Vidya Jyoti was conferred on him in 1986 in due recognition of his service to the nation. Many other stories and revealed by his students and peers alike of his human side as day-to-day dealing with them. Some of these things I think Professor Abekon has mentioned in his welcome speech. That the students considered him as a father figure in a real sense was reflected by the remorse they admitted to have automatically felt when they had to deal with him face to face. In the course of awakening of students' right movements in the new faculty, only to be subsequently treated with his unusual kindness as if nothing happened. So that's all about his about late Professor E.O. Pereira. So we will move on to the presentation on the topic resolving issues in the construction industry. So I think this is a timely topic, and before getting into that, I will just I think most of the things what I'm going to talk to here today is you all are well aware. My responsibility or duty today is to just to make you aware and to get together and then think differently and then try to resolve these issues that we are facing in the construction industry. Right. Making another. So you'll know the construction industry is different to the other industries. So it is a product-based industry and it's a custom rather than routine, repetitive business. To great extent, each project in each of its categories is designed and built to serve the specific need. So performance of the industry is basically decided by the performance of all projects in the industry. The construction industry is one of the driving industries in the economy and make a significant contribution to the national economy. The physical infrastructure is essential to any economy, and construction of infrastructure is the first step developing the economy. Therefore, the construction industry's contribution to the economy is a reasonable indicator to judge the economic situation in the country. The construction industry is generally focused on the production of single and unique product, and it's called one-off item that is satisfied in terms of its function. So there are 3 key players: the employer, the engineer or the consultant, or sometimes designer, and very importantly, the contractor. So in construction industry, everywhere you face problems, not only in Sri Lanka, and challenges also. However, in developing countries, these problems, challenges are present alongside the general situation of the socio-economic situation and chronic resource shortage. We are facing that in our industry. Institutional weaknesses, of course, we have all that, and a general inability to deal with the key issues. Again, we are facing these issues. There is also evidence that problems have become greater extent and severe in recent years. Development of construction industry is a deliberate process to improve the capacity, performance, and effectiveness of the work, especially the cost, to meet the demand for building and civil engineering products and to support sustained national economy and social development objectives as well. So generally the construction industry is criticized for its slow acceptance and use of modern management. So this is a serious issue in any country to plan and execute the projects. This is one of the primary performance issues in construction. So the management of these construction organizations are responsible to introduce the technology and new methods. Unfortunately, these things are very slow in our industry. Most of the construction industry in the world are characterized by unstable level of activities, no continuation of work for the contractors. And this is compounded by inadequate investment plan that is also there. And changing priorities of the governments is happening everywhere, even in Sri Lanka, due to various socio-economics and political constraints also. Sometimes the projects may not continue. They will stop these projects and then go for new projects. Right, move on to construction industry. This is general. I think the ITAD, now the SIDA, is established to development of the construction industry. And they are responsible for registering contractors, providing training, introducing standard documents, conditions of contract, specification, and facilitating research and development works, and address industry issues, and to assist in policy making. So the SIDA has to do a big role to improve the industry. Okay. So it was highlighted that sufficient studies have not been carried out to in this our construction industry to find out the current level of performance. So also the necessity for the improvement of the performance and productivity of these. So these things have been identified, and these are key economic development requirements by the government of Sri Lanka in the past as well as on the present government. So contribution for the to the GDP by the construction industry from 2012 to 2017 is about 7 to 8%, but of course last 2 years, 2018 and 18, there was a decline in that percentage. All right, now there was a study carried out in road construction industry, especially, not only the full construction, this is only for the, I'm now talking about road construction industry. And then we have identified 25 significant issues in the industry. So these significant issues are summarized here into 4 categories based on the responsibility for the main parties, the employer, the engineer, the contractor, and also I have added the industry also has to do something. So the points I am giving here with basically is with the suggestions, including suggestions. And to start with employer, we have 6 we have identified. And the first one is land acquisition and also utility relocation, especially when it comes to road projects. And then finalizing the scope of work and then securing funds. So we have a lot of problems with the land acquisition and also because the contractor is coming to the site, the land is not acquired. So therefore you have to keep the contractor hold or paying him delay damages. So because we could not complete the land acquisition in time. And this is a serious problem when it comes to road projects. And then utility relocation, because all these utilities were handled by the engineering organization. But unfortunately, today when I was coming from Kandy, somewhere near Talawatugoda, the road is done up and carpeted, everything, signal lights fixed and everything. But unfortunately, there is no paved platform is there for the pedestrians. But unfortunately, there are electricity poles on it, and that has not been removed. So I think we need to think seriously. Why can't we get together, the utility organizations, and then resolve this matter so that we can save a lot of issues, public inconvenience, as well as the costs to the contractors, the money for the contractors, cost to the government, because you have to, if you invite the international contractor, and then if you delay him for 1 month, so you are talking about maybe 52 or maybe 100 to 200 million rupees. So, and my experience is that the utility relocations, the question is money. So he said, we don't have money. So we have to, as engineers, think about, if you don't have money, I think why should we start the project? And now the other problem is scope has not been finalized. So we talk about, we start the work due to various pressures, and the scope has not been finalized, and the BOQ quantities are not accurate, and maybe a lot of extra works, and the project is get delayed, and you need additional money. So you need to take all these cases and then seriously consider how we should resolve this. And also now, I think most of the contractors are complaining that the work done about 2 years had not been paid. So the reason for that is there is no funds available to pay for these contractors. So I think this is not very healthy or professional situation. So therefore, I think what we need to do that is utility recall. All these projects should be organized by the employers well before the awarding of the construction contracts, and developing systematic procedure for each activity. We can do that. I think there is no problem. And the public is supporting most of the time for land acquisition. They sometimes give them waively if they can trust us. So the next one is, especially is coming to material. Now I think we have exhausted more than 50% of the material up to now globally. So when it comes to construction material, we have a lot of problems. Recently, one of my friends said the 1 cube of sand in Colombo is around 25,000. So the sand is coming from Mayangana or from Polanaru. So, and so the other thing is, now when the roads build up in northern area, there is serious material scarcity. So therefore, you transport, the quality material is available in Madavachi area. So we are transporting from Madavachi to Jaffna nearly 200 kilometers. So we need to think about, and also it's same thing as gravel and aggregates. And also, I think we are now pressurizing to speed up the construction. So we have these restrictions, and in addition to that, we have problems with getting permits and then getting various approvals from the government institutions. So these things are delaying the work. So therefore, I think we need to seriously think about, why can't we change the specifications to suit for available material. So if your material is available in Madavachi to do the roads in that area, we should be able to do it. Adjust our specification without sacrificing the quality. But I think we need to think on that. Otherwise, we may have to import aggregate and gravel and sand maybe with next 5 to 10 years. So we need to seriously think about this problem. And also, I think I will be talking about sand later on. And the next one is, and again, contractors' payment. So there are a lot of complaints. In the conditions of contract, it's mentioned that on the FIDIC document, it says you have to settle the IPCs within 28 days, but the employee has employer have the provisions to change that in a particular conditions, and then you change it to 42 days, 56 days, and in sometimes 70 days. And I saw one contract is 90 days. So I think we have to, if the contractor is dispersing about 80% of the total project cost. So therefore, I think it is our responsibility, the consultant and the employer, to pay him early as possible. So I think that is important. So these delays finally cause project delays, and if a project is delayed, it is cost to the employer. It's cost to the employer, and finally, it's cost to the public. So, and again, it's important that the leadership qualities, technical ability, qualification also matters. So therefore, I am proposing that we need to have some kind of a mechanism to pay them within the stipulated time. Probably the 28 days may not be sufficient, but at least within 42 days, pay them. Conditions of contract says if you delay beyond that, you have to pay the interest. But I requested one contractor recently, why don't you pay the interest claim? He says, sir, if they don't pay the IPC in time, will they pay the interest? That's also true. So that's another point. So then the leadership qualities, technical ability, qualifications, and experience also it matters. And it is very important that you should have all these things. But when you get into the industry, when you get into the work, you have to work and then deliver the goods. That is also important, because you have no time to, you can't mark time. So, and in most of the places now, especially on the private sector, now they pay on the delivery, performance. Basic salary is very low, but they pay on the performance. So we need to, and then when it comes to the next one is training. So most of the employers, even in government sector, they don't care, they don't pay attention to train juniors. That is a serious problem. So what they say is no money. Well, that's the simple argument. I think it is important, even as corporate members of the Institution of Engineers, it is our responsibility to train juniors. So, and therefore we should, I think when you are in a project, if you are trying to train, they say, no, contractor staff you can't train because they're contractors people. So I think that should not be, you should not categorize them. Everybody should be trained. The engineers are working for the employer, working for the consultant, and also for the contractor. Because today a person working for contractor might join the employer next month. So therefore training should be given. And one senior member argued with me, say, okay, you tell that to train. I have spent so much money and then we train, they went abroad. So that's good. No? I said, it's good. So they went abroad, at least they send dollars back. So go for it. So that is important. So this is the thinking. And the next one is, so I have proposed that, so this is, I think, the previous one. And also the engineer, sometimes the delegation of authority is a question. So you are appointed to a senior positions in the contracts, the projects, but the authority is not given. So how can you perform? So everything you need to code it to the secretary sometimes. Secretary sometimes in some of the ministries is not a engineer or a technical person. Maybe about 10 years back there was a case. I was working under one of the secretaries, non-engineer, and then finally all the technical matters is referred to him for approval. Change in bitumen to emulsion, there was the paper gone to me, the secretary. So it is basically the consultant shop. So these are some of the problems. And the next one is handing over sites, especially when it comes to road projects. There are a lot of delays. So the conditions of contract says 20-kilometer road, you have to hand it over. The possession of site to be handed over to the contractor 14 days after issuing of the letter of acceptance. That is says in the contract. But when you go there to this contractor, when you move to the site, what happens is that there is no 10 kilometers, still the houses are not being relocated. compensation are not being paid. So two things, you should not rush, and once you finish all these formalities, you must invite the contractor. Otherwise, you can say, okay, you can word it the conditions of contract to say that, okay, we will give you 5 kilometers first. And then in the process, next 5 kilometers, we will give you after 6 months. So something like that, you can stagger it, so that will be that is a good arrangement, rather than saying 20 kilometers and you can't do that, and then finally you pay for the contractor for delays. So it's government money. And the next one, this is the 6 points and the recommendations I have included here: trainings, workshops, and I think we should cooperate members of the institutions of engineers working in most of the organization. You don't cost anything. The senior engineers can train them, and even design training, and they can talk. They can arrange a lecture at 3 o'clock or maybe 4 o'clock on Friday, and go till about 6 o'clock, and then straight away go to pub after 6, and then enjoy, and then have a social life. So this is what we have been doing when you are in sites, right? So I think that this is, and you don't have to send everybody pay them for the training. So I think we need to seriously think about. And move on to the timely handing over. Of course, I have make a recommendation here. Then the engineer, of course, during this study, we have not found anything, because basically I'm not saying that the engineer is perfect or the consultant is perfect, but I have selected these 25 points, significant points. So there are maybe another 30 points, but it has not come up. So I have pointed out only 2. Only one thing is that even if you recruited the international consultant, sometimes they don't give instructions in writing. You go to site and tell something, and then if you do it, okay, right, fine. If there's a problem, later say, I didn't tell. I think that is very unprofessional. So that should not happen. I think it's happening in the industry. So therefore, it is important. And also, you invite experts, sometimes on the request of the donor. That may be a donor requirement. And if you want, okay, minimize it. And also you have to specifically say, these are your qualifications, experience, and then you should have very clear keyword. Otherwise, people will come and people will enjoy here. They will enjoy beaches here and there, all over the country, and then stay here for 6-7 months. And then the employer feels that he is not a suitable candidate. He will say, okay, we are going to change him, but at a cost. He will have a 6 months paid holiday in Sri Lanka. So we should not get into that. That is the employer's responsibility. We will fix it and say. And also, I strongly recommend, it is not mentioned here. When I was working in the project, I said, okay, this kind of people, you need to invite him and then bring him before employing, and then interview him face to face. Maybe you can't do it now, but at least that will spend about 500,000 rupees. Doesn't matter, because otherwise you are losing 500 million, right? So the other one is, even we found that the matters have not been discussed and then resolve it. You have progress review meetings in your the contracts projects, but apparently you don't do it properly. And the conditions of contract is a requirement that the consultant should conduct monthly progress review meeting, and all these things are given by the employer, but mostly these things are not happening. As a result, the issues have not been resolved at the site level. So therefore, these people will go to various other dispute resolution mechanisms and spending money, costing money as well as time, maybe adjudication or arbitration and various things. So the next one is the contractor. Contractor, I have found nearly 12. So I think I will go through quickly. And in contracts, it says in the conditions of contract, any contract, the project manager or the project manager should be a chartered engineer. But there is a lot of resistance from the contractor side. What they say is the chartered engineers cannot run the project. So this is what they argue, so therefore they do not fulfill the requirement, and as a result, there are a lot of planning and other issues at site. So I think what my suggestion is, in most of the projects, when I was working as a consultant, I suggested them, okay, you have a requirement, so you have to fulfill. But you can get an operational guy, construction manager, you can be given that responsibility. But all the other, the planning aspects and various other conditional contract matters, claims, and the planning aspects should be given to this chartered engineer. So there are, and as a result, most of the places you don't have this chartered engineer, and as a result, there are a lot of problems. So this is one of the issues. So and also when you take them, I think you need to check their records, because it's important that in a lot of CVs are coming, but actually on the CVs, this what you written here is not true. So earlier only those things happen only for people, the CV within Chinese, but now even in English you have this problem in the industry. So therefore you need to check. It is very important. So references should be checked. There are a lot of cases in the industry. And also generally our contractors, as a result of the previous one, they don't respond properly, they don't communicate properly. So therefore there should be some time limit given for the contractor to respond these things. Otherwise you must take. And also contractor staff training. So contractors are businessmen and they always try to maximize their profit. So therefore the training like things they don't consider. So therefore it is important for the employee, engineer and to encourage or include these requirements even in the conditions of contract, because you need to train people. All these training grounds in the government sector are no more now. So therefore we need to establish something similar to what we had in CITP training long time back. And I think there was a CITP levy, probably what senior members may know. So there's a 2% or something contractor will have to contribute, which is coming from UK. So that fund is utilized for training of engineers and technical people and all. So I think we need to think about, I think the very senior, the members here, chairmen and secretary level. So I think you need to take up these things, and then training is a must, and it is very important. So sorry, I will rush through till what time, sir? Okay, midnight. We'll have the second session there on the members line. Okay, right. Maybe 15 minutes I will finish. And again, there are a lot of problems with the contractors with plants and machinery, because when you run with the fleet, what happens is you have 2 good machines and then 3 very old machines. And they call it some machines, cheaper machines. And then as a result, the fleet is not working properly. So there is a downtime, and then project is not moving, progress is slow. So therefore it is important that systematic way of procuring equipment and plant has to be done it systematically. And also plant cost, nobody is bothered. When we were at site, every week we have to send plant cost return to the plant controller. And then plant controller will work out the cost, and end of the month send the high charge list and charges to the project. So therefore we are very careful to, we don't keep unnecessary machineries, and we immediately inform if there is a breakdown, because if the breakdown is there, you don't have to pay. You don't have to pay higher. So this kind of things is important to reintroduce in our construction site. And plant verification, and recently the project I worked, they are complaining about these small rollers, 1-ton rollers are not available. So when we inspect, and when we inspect roads, we don't generally inspect by car, we walk on the road, right? That's what they told us by the bosses in the past. So when we walking, 2 rollers are parked near a house. So I asked the house owner, whose rollers are these? Amatyami company. So they have parked it, the project manager has parked it, project manager has left 3 months, and then nobody knows where the plants are parked. So the verification and checking of the plants are not happening at sites. So this is the other important thing is, when a contract is awarded, they pass the responsibility onto the project manager, the site man, and no support from the head office. Their support is only to get the mobilization advance. And then the project manager is suffering without resources, and the progress is not moving, and he is get blackguarded. And from the progress meeting, every progress meeting, if you get blamed for 3 meetings, he will be leaving the project. So therefore, there no support financially and other resources are not being given in most of the project. As a result, projects are suffering. So, and therefore this the budget requirements, head office should involve actively from inception to completion. Inception to completion, it is important, and not to take only the advance. So I'm talking the mobilization advance later on, and also the other requirements, given the other requirements as well. And conditions of contract says, if you say the contractor's representative should be given all the authorities, including financial authorities. But it's most of the project managers, they don't have this the authority given, even to purchase, if there is no, if the diesel bowser is not reached to the site, at least to buy 10 barrels of diesel, he has no authority. So how can you write multi-billion projects? So these things we need to seriously think about. And there should be a joint commitment from the contractor, and then his involvement is important. And this one is very important, the cash flow. Don't look at this. Okay, cash flow. So, and in order to improve the cash flow, most in all our contracts, we allow 20% mobilization advance. Earlier, the 20% mobilization advance was given at the beginning of the contract, but later, due to some of the issues raised, now the employees are paying it in 3 installments: 10%, 5%, and 5%. And the purpose is tell the contractor paying the mobilization advance, it is an interest-free loan for the contractor to improve his cash flow. But unfortunately, if you pay this 20% at the beginning, anybody, if you get a chunk of money, I think we waste. So that is what happening in contracts. So therefore, it is important that there should be, we should include, write the conditions of contract to say that the contractor has to utilize this money, make sure the contractor is using this money for the project. And in fact, I think what the best suggestion is, you should not pay 20% at the beginning, but you pay 5% or 10%, maybe 5%, and then based on the contractor's cash flow, if they submitted with the tender, or maybe at the first program after awarding the contract, where when the minus cash flow is there, then the contractor can ask for mobilization. So I think we need to modify the current FIDIC conditions of contract, or maybe CEDA conditions of contract, to change that clause to suit. So that means the mobilization advance 20% will be paid, but for different contractors we will pay in different times. In fact, maybe last year, about 2 years back, there was a decision from the government that to release the retention money after reaching physical progress is reached 60%, you can release the retention on a bank guarantee. So that is happening. I think I was told that has been included in the procurement guideline as well. So that is also good. So at the start, you have some money. Usually in our contract, after 30% of the physical progress, we start deducting the mobilization. And then there will be a cash flow 30 to 40%. You can pay 5% there. And then maybe at the end, maybe 90% level. The project where you have worked, they have reached to 90%. And then for the next 10%, now it's gone 1.5 years. That is purely because of cash flow. So we can think of paying 5% when you reach up to about 90%. So, and also wastage of material is very high. We have worked out wastage of material recently for aggregate base cost. It is over 25%. It's over 25%. So the material is scarce now, and in top of that, we waste 30%. So this is very serious matter, and therefore this has to be, we need to seriously think about. So utilization and also labor plant, everything. Now they compare these tenders with Chinese contractors and Sri Lankan contractors, and they perform at construction. But the labor productivity, our contracts using Sri Lankan labor is very low. It's very low. So due to various reasons. So we need to think of improving the labor utilization. And the financial management, of course, I have. The other important thing is you must try to get, it's important, we bring laborers, if a project is in goal, once it is finished, when we take all the laborers to Medavachi. I think we need, there are some positives as well, there are some negatives. I think therefore what you try to do is, like material, we should draw, design our contract such a way that the material, labor, everything should be, you have to collect it from the vicinity and the area. So that is least cost. And then the next one, I have a few things for the industry. And my experience is working in project is the main problem is these three parties are not working together. That is very important. So therefore it is very important that all three parties, we have our engineers, corporate engineers, sometimes batchmates, but only thing when you have an issue, we are not in a position to resolve it. So teamwork has to be built. So sometimes the engineer and contractor think, engineer and the employee thinks that this job is given to the contractor, it is his responsibility. No, it is everybody's responsibility. That understanding, that culture is not there. So we need to develop this culture. If you want to develop this, when you can have your differences, organization boundaries are there, but when you are going to construction, you have to have the culture or the determination that we are one team. We are one team. We want to resolve this problem within the project, inside the project. We don't have to take it out. I think that culture needs to be built up in order to develop the industry. This is very serious, very serious. So I have proposed this, developed in all sides to encourage to take decisions jointly and decision taking. So I have mentioned this also to requirement for SEED actually to have enhanced the skill development programs for craftsmen, laborers and everyone. And the other important thing is the material suppliers. So in other countries, material suppliers are specialized people. Asphalt suppliers are specialized people. They run very large research and development laboratories. And they have about 2-3 PhD students also working there to develop their materials, and similar to concrete. So I think we also should improve this, and we can now we can go for high grade concrete and then slender structures, and we need to seriously, we have all our brains are here, so we need to use them in a practical sense. So, and in Australia, usually the major contractors, they don't run the asphalt plant or concrete plants. That has been done by separate contractors. So when you tender for a job, you take prices from these people and then submit their rates. They say it is not economical in that industry to run their own plants, because sometimes getting continuous jobs is a problem. Right. So this kind of new thinking, I think we need to go for it. And also, in order to improve this, we should think about different contracts. I heard that the Road Development Authority is planning the build on, operate and transfer type contracts for the future expressways. It's a good thing. And also we need to think of private public partnership contracts, alliance contracts. So when you don't have your own money, you can join hand with the investor and the government authority, and maybe you can get a contractor or a builder and then jointly run public-private partnership contracts. So these are some points and recommendations came out with this research. And now I will, sir, give me about 10 minutes. Some of the issues highlighted in the industry are introduction of new taxes time to time. So this is a serious problem. And you have introduced recently the NBT, and the contractor is paying that, but then the employees are not reimbursing. And the employee is arguing that that is your cost. It is not my cost. But he has not anticipated that cost during tendering. So how can you? It's about 2% or something like that, but it's huge. So therefore, this type of things I'm proposing something at the end. High cost of imported construction materials because there are a lot of taxes on it. And steel, cement, bitumen. And then the next one is shortage of sand for construction. And I have mentioned that it's experience for all of you. Compensation to local companies from foreign contractors, competition. So that is there. You cannot stop that. We can protest and go all over and say no foreign contractors. It won't happen. You can protest and go and say no foreign consultant. It won't happen. Right? You have to accept it, but I think we should have our way of handling it for the betterment of the industry, betterment of the country. So engineers should decide, including me, of course. You may think that you are talking like not an engineer. It's not. Right. Then the monopoly situation for importation of bitumen. Always bitumen shortages. Not required bitumen is available. So you have to change the specification while construction is running. And high cost of borrowing from banks, local banks. That is the other serious problem. Right? In Australia, they don't pay mobilization advance. But in if you sign a contract for a construction contract, you can go with that to the bank and show, I have got a job, I want a loan. They will give you a loan. No questions will be asked. Probably you may ask for security and various things, but that flexibility is there up to a certain extent. And the suggestions are that streamline tax system, of course, we'll have to take it, CEDA and ISL, you will have to take it up, and then for construction, do it. And for personal tax, of course, they have done that similarly. And time to time, we should not add any taxes. If you add taxes, you have to reimburse them. That is important for the contractor. And the other one is manufactured sand. I know few people have started 6-7 years back, but there was no support for them to run this business because they need the resources, they need the funds, and no funds available, no loans provided. So I think there should be some subsidies. Government should consider this. That is very important. And also I think we have to think of alternative material to sand. We can do some research and R&D and see how we can do that for concrete. So we have research institutes, universities. I think the construction industry can join hand. There are a lot of potential, a lot of resources. And even some of the research carried out in universities are it is not available for the industry. So that is another problem. You have to think of that. So you must have a master database somewhere. Once you publish, I believe it is a public document. So that can be loaded into CEDA or maybe ISL or somewhere. So that information is not there. So you can take it up and then run. So you need to seriously think about an alternative to sand. Replace sand because sand will not be available after maybe 100 years or 50 years. You may think that we are not going to live 100 years, yes, but the industry and the country should do it. So we have to put the foundation. And next one, and the other one is competition. So you can increase the limit for local contractors. Take a risk by the authorities and then give them, okay, you have not done 1 billion contract, but okay, I will give you 1 billion. There is a risk, but you have to monitor these risks continuously. And again, maybe about 10-15 years back, there was a domestic preference when the international contractors introduced to this country. There was a domestic preference. The domestic preference is very simple. There was a supposing say foreign contract has bid for 95 million, the local contract has bid for 100 million, and then local contract is at that time was given 7.5 million domestic preference. So that means for tender evaluation purpose, they take 100 minus 7.5. So his tender is 92.5. Foreign contractor is 95. So local contractor is given the tender, is evaluated. So that kind of thing, I'm proposing that we should go for that. At least for certain contracts, limited contracts, for 10% domestic preference. That can be introduced, no problem. And also allow local contractors to import construction materials. Bitumen, there is a monopoly, so you can't do it with monopoly because now I think the RD is planning for 100,000 kilometers of rural road within next 5 years or something. I don't know the time limit, but huge amount of aggregates And also we are talking of Central Expressway, and we are talking of expressway from Kurunegala to Dambul, and we are talking of what is this, Ratnapura, what is this? All this you need material, bitumen. So I think we need to think of this, and then these authorities here should propose. Otherwise, projects will start. We will wait without material. And these are some of the suggestions I have proposed here. And in order to implement this, I think it is. I'm suggesting that commission or maybe a steering committee or some powerful committee is to be established nationally, and then members from IESL, National Contractor Association, SEDA, Chamber of Commerce, relevant line ministries, and the treasury should include, and then there should be a powerful committee. So we need to inform the government. That's the way to go forward, and also maybe relevant stakeholders. So this is the only way to resolve these problems. Otherwise, we will not be able to face the upcoming development and construction projects. And therefore, we need to, this message, I have given some eye-opening messages, some suggestions, and I request you all to take it up. And then finally, make sure that the construction industry is developed and also to cater for the expected or the potential projects, so that the country is developed. And for that, I think we all will have to get together and then walk this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. S.B. Vijay Kon, for a very informative speech and timely speech and timely topic, and addressing many areas that we are facing in the construction industry. I can see many experts in the construction industry here. So those informations are very informative and very important for resolve many problems that we are facing today. And ladies and gentlemen, the institution has prepared a memento to give away the memento. May I now invite the president of the Institute of Engineers Sri Lanka, Professor Abe Kon, and our presenter today, Dr. S.B. Vijay Kon, please step forward to accept the memento.
Can I have 2 seconds? Today, when I was leaving home, my wife told me one thing. She said, don't bring any mementos because the mementos are all over, under the bed and everywhere. So I said, okay, if I get more mementos, I'll buy a cupboard. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much accepting the memento, and thank you very much accepting our invitation to deliver the lecture of the third memorial lecture of the Professor E.U. Pereira. And I can see today is a very special day. I can see many past presidents and many fellows and many members of the institution. And I'm very sure many members are joining with Zoom and the Facebook Live also. And with these remarks, and we have come to the end of today's agenda to propose the vote of thanks. Now I invite the chairman of the Civil Engineering Sectional Committee, Engineer Professor Ranjit Disanayake.
Thank you, Banjala. Ladies and gentlemen, President IESL, Professor Abe Kon, our guest speaker, Engineer Dr. S.P. Vijay Kon, Dr. Jayalalitha Singh, representing the Dean, Faculty of Engineering, University of Pereira, President-elect, Engineer Dharanpal, past President of the Institute, CEO IESL, Engineer Neil Labesekara, President, PIFA Colombo Chapter, our most valuable invited guest, and ladies and gentlemen. I believe it's a privilege as well as honor that I was given the opportunity to propose the vote of thanks for the E.O. Pereira Memorial Lecture 2020 to commemorate the father of engineering education in Sri Lanka. Prof. E.O. Pereira was the pioneer in engineering education in Sri Lanka. He was tirelessly contributed to establishment of the first full-fledged engineering faculty in Sri Lanka, later moved to the Pereira. First of all, on behalf of Civil Engineering Section Company, let me thank Engineer Dr. S.P. Vijaykom for gracing this occasion as our guest. Talk on resolving issues in the construction industry and some thoughts. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to place the record of heartiest thanks to the ISL staff for perfect logistic arrangement and guidance that they extend all of us for this year's E.O. Pereira Memorial Lecture. I also extend my sincere thanks to the Pereira Engineering Faculty Alumni Association, Colombo Chapter, for collaboration with us during this organization. And also, I love to convey my heartiest gratitude to the Civil Engineering Section Committee members who did a great job in order to complete this task. I can't thank everyone though enough for their involvement and their willingness to take the completion of this total job today. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, I thank all of you taking the part through the physically present here and Zoom and being live on the Facebook. To deliver the final remarks and invite all of the next proceedings, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Engineer S.G.G. Rajkumar, the President, PIFA Colombo Chapter. Thank you very much. I wish you all have a wonderful evening today. Over to you.
President of IESL, President of Civil Engineering Section Committee, and our guest lecturer, member of the representative member of the of Professor E.O. Pereira, and the teaching staff from Pereira and colleagues. We are privileged to have benefited from Professor E.O. Pereira, engineer, visionary, and a leader. In preparation of this CD, we learned many facts about him. He being a practicing engineer, he was able to foresee what he was going to have as a engineering faculty. So he didn't compromise on the budget what was going to be given to him. So even though it was mentioned earlier, it was small numbers what we were going to have, but today I think we are having 450 plus. Still we are in accommodation, I think in Punchmore also going to have. And also we had a full-fledged, many faculties where there are many fields of education, of engineering education was there. So he was the father of engineering. And also, PIFA Colombo Chapter is developing the landscaping of the E.O. Pereira Theatre. I guess by the time we have the next lecture, then we complete. So I hope and pray that that's there. And also he was a person who cared for many people, the students, the supporting staff. And also while we were collecting some material for the CD, one of the ladies said that how much, when in her interview, how he, when others were saying that how a lady could be an engineer at that time, but he really defended and brought her in, and then thereafter continued to see that it was well cared of. Not only that, there was a person who had been caring for him the later stages of life,
and he's supposed to be a millionaire businessman in UK. So you can just imagine how he had been caring for various people. And also at that time, when we were looking at this, we found that in one of the memos, he had mentioned about solar power. So you just can imagine at that time he had been thinking of, and this time now we are benefiting from the solar power. And the speaker was talking more about the roads and from the water industry. And we also have decided to damage or lay 10,000 kilometers of pipe. So it's not going to be damaged, but it's going to be going to work together and see that the damages are least. So I think that's the current thinking which is going on. Thank you so for that. And also we will wish to request you all to collect the CD that we prepared today. And the CD, actually, we thought that we will try to print the book first. But later on, we saw that we will deliver today within a short period of time. And we will develop it to another book with some more content and make it as a good one. So we are quite impressed with the CD that have been prepared by us. And when we are thinking of Professor E.O. Pereira, there are many more things that we could be told about. And Prof. Colombo Chapter has a pleasure in inviting you all for the fellowship and for the dinner. Yeah. Thank you.